Hey, Star Wars fans, Pete here from Comic Books Transformed, and I am with my good friend Brian, Mr. Corsair. Brian, there was a Corsair in this episode of The Mandalorian today, wasn't there?
Yes, and there have been plenty of times when people have said, "Hey, you spelled your name wrong."
Wow.
Yeah,
Those people sound like fun. Was that on Twitter?
I'm assuming they use that kind of tone because it was like online or something like that. But
Yes. Well, what's the genesis of Corsair, by the way? Because I know
oh,
there's
John Edwards, it's Corson's hair. Because I had big giant hair, like I took my hockey helmet off, and my hair was just like all over the place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a terrible origin, but for some reason it's stuck and it's unique, and I can always use it, except for one place. Is it Instagram? Instagram, it was taken. I slept on Instagram for so long, and my exact name was taken by a barber.
That's pretty cool, though. Does he look like a pirate?
No.
Oh, that would be cooler. But I always thought of Corsair, the guy from X-Men, Cyclops' dad.
Yeah, if I was like cooler, I would have said that because obviously we're both Cyclops fans and all that. But no, that's the legit origin of it, and it just stuck because it's I can always get it.
Yeah, it always works. That's cool, man. Yeah, my nickname I've always had like Anchor Pete, and I pretty much just use it for myself. Just some guy in a comic book store called me that.
It's good. It's a good name though.
It's weird. I still don't know the basis. He never told me the origin. Like you at least have the thing where you take off your helmet and you have big puffy hair. Like he just said, your name's Anchor. And I'm like, okay. like it was a comic book store on Staten Island. I know you know this. I'm just telling our watchers. But like it was Comic Book Jones, and everyone that was like a regular was something Jones. And so
because you were a corner point of keeping that store going and alive.
I'm hoping it's that. I'm hoping it's not like because Anchorman had come out recently, and I know that sometimes I literally point out things very literally, like, "Oh, this is what we're doing," and I don't know if it's probably a stretch. It's probably a stretch. Anyway, people are probably wondering what the fuck we're talking about. As per usual, we are talking about just for today The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 5, because there's nothing else going on, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
There's a bit of a content drought. We don't know what we're going to cover next. Maybe
Yes.
something old. Who knows?
Hey, and if you guys want to give suggestions too, I always love when you guys leave comments. I'd love to know what would you guys like us to cover. So Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 5. The episode's called The Pirate, and it's Chapter 21 of the book of Din Djarin, right? So, did you like the actual pirate that they're referring to?
Yeah. I mean, he reminds me of kind of like Pizza the Hut.
Yeah, I can see that.
But he's moss instead of pizza. Yes, I did. Like to me, that's like there's that aspect of goofy Star Wars, that has like weird creatures and stuff, and that's like it fits to me and it works for me.
Yes. I think that in the book of Boba Fett and this show, they've really ramped up the goofy Star Wars stuff. Like they really play that up a lot.
Yes,
and this episode in particular too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. He kind of was like Pizza the Hut from Spaceballs, and then also Swamp Thing, right?
Yeah, oh, that's even better call out. Yeah, I mean, but like I guess he was. The shape was more like Pizza the Hut to me,
right?
So, and I was expecting to hear, what was his name? Shard. Shard's gonna order out for you, or some cheesy line or something like that.
Yeah. Gorian Shard.
Shard. Yeah. I always want to say Shand instead of Shard for some reason. Okay.
Luckily, he wasn't brown, and they called him Gorian Shart. That would have been bad, But anyway.
I would have laughed.
Yes. So, talking about weird aliens that are in this episode, we actually get a cameo from a animated character. We get Zeb Aurelios. And now, you've never watched Rebels, right?
I have not, but I am familiar with the character, and I'm familiar with another character of that race, he's a Lasat. And I was always fascinated with. I remember when Rebels first came out and they were announcing the characters. I remember reading about it. I never got around to watching the shows, but I always thought it was cool that they designed this character after the original Ralph McQuarrie Chewbacca designs.
I know.
So that little nugget always like lives rent free in my head.
Yeah. Well, do you think that he translated well into live action?
Yeah, it was cool because it was the same voice actor, Steve Bloom, who was probably most famous for being Spike Spiegel in Cowboy Bebop. and some other major characters across some of our fandoms like Wolverine and Starscream.
Oh my God, I'm so attracted to this man.
And he's done so many more than that too, but that just like scratches the surface.
I completely forgot that he's the voice of Starscream in Transformers Prime.
That is correct, yeah.
Because that Starscream is very much like Starscream, but he's also very different from Starscream too. At least like aesthetically, and then his voice is different too.
Yeah, obviously they can't have the same voice as the original or anything like that. I mean, they've had plenty of different voice actors for every character really in Transformers, but I think he had an excellent portrayal of him in Transformers Prime.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, that makes me appreciate that scene even more. And in that scene, so basically what happens is you have these like Rangers that serve the New Republic. They're sort of like what the rebellion has turned into now that the Empire's gone. And they land on their planet, which I believe is called Adelphi. When they get there, we have this character that's been in both the Book of Boba Fett and also the Mandalorian. His name's Carson Teva. And in that bar that he goes to, he runs into Zeb. But then he also, there's also other people that made a cameo. Did you know that there were other?
I didn't actually. I saw your notes on it, and I didn't. I guess I was just paying attention to Zeb.
Yeah. But like it's kind of crazy because like I don't know who these other people are, but like Dave Filoni was there, and I didn't even like recognize him or see him. But he had a cool name. The character's name was Trapper Wolf. It's not very Star Warsy. The next one is
wait, no, that's an existing character, isn't it?
Oh, maybe, I don't know. Then there was also a director and one of the executives, I think, of this show. His name's Rick Fumiyawa. And he played Jib Dodger. That's a more Star Warsy kind of sounding name.
Yeah.
And then the Obi-Wan showrunner, Deborah Chow, is in there as Sash Ketter. And that's a very Star Wars name too.
Huh.
Sash Ketter. But what did you think about those Rangers and like just kind of the way that the New Republic felt in that scene?
So every time I see these characters, I always think about the failed spinoff, which I assume it was supposed to be like the Cara Dune spinoff with the New Republic.
Yeah.
I imagine that Carson Teva would have been a big part of that, and I guess that fell through because they wrote her out of the show. So I guess they're just kind of, bulking up their presence here. Maybe if they're going to see if they can still spin it off somehow. Mm-hmm. I always thought that like that actor looked familiar, and I did not know where he came from. But you mentioned that he's from Kim's Convenience, which is the same place that Simu Liu is from.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool, and I think that's probably where he sort of looked familiar from. Although I haven't seen much of that show. But yeah, I like the character. I actually really like this episode a lot. I've had some issues with the last two, but they seemed a little scattered and all that. But yeah, I feel like it's coming together. Like they started weaving together all the plot threads of all the previous episodes in here, and I really like this episode a lot.
I liked it too. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, did you think that when you were watching it that at first, did you think that like Mando was going to be absent from it completely?
Yes, yeah, because obviously we've seen that happen with other characters. We had the episode that was completely, not completely, but it was mostly centered on
Dr. Pershing.
We had the two Mandalorian episodes in Boba Fett where Boba Fett does not even appear in one of them.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a line in the other.
Right.
So it's like par for the course, I suppose. But he was there. He had a presence, and I think I can start to see what they could be weaving together with all these plot points. So, with the Children of the Watch, with Bo-Katan, with the Mythosaur, with the New Republic, with Moff Gideon, and these I'm interested to see where it goes now. Or at the very least, I think I'll be satisfied with where I think it's going.
Okay. Yeah, well, I want to talk about where it's going and what it's building up to. But before we get to that, I just want to make this one point that before Star Wars was purchased by Disney and we still had the expanded universe, you would get like novels that had like sort of a generic title. They weren't like specified like, oh, this is about the Jedi or this is about the Sith or this is about Rogue Squadron. It was just like Star Wars, Path to Darkness or something, and it would have a bunch of different characters, and it would be just like an ongoing story from novel to novel. And you have these supporting characters that you'd never seen in any of the live action movies, but they were introduced in these novels, and you kind of knew them just if you kept up with the books, right? And they did this with the comics too. They had like Star Wars Legacy, and they had Star Wars, I believe it was called Knights of the Old Republic, the comic, or it was Star Wars The Old Republic, the comic. But it always seemed like it was always about a time period of Star Wars versus like specific people. And there's always kind of like, well, this is like the time of the Empire, and this is the New Republic time, and this is after the New Republic. And that's what these shows are starting to feel like to me. They're starting to feel like this thing where it's like, oh, this is just Star Wars, the show. And it's like it's telling about this specific time, which is this like post-Empire, pre-sequel era time. Did you kind of get that vibe too?
Yeah. So it's basically less Mandalorian centric and more New Republic era centric, and I like that. I think I think it's good to kind of diversify what you're focusing on here, and there is a cohesive theme with the time period, and it works for me. I mean, I'm a sucker for expanded universes and living, breathing worlds. The more characters there are that exist, the more I like it.
Yes. And I mean, it just feels that way when like Carson Teva, like we're focusing on him and we're not even up to the Mandalorian until like, I don't know, like halfway through the episode or almost halfway through the episode. And then you have this one scene where it's like, what do you call it? Elia Kane. They bring her back for a couple of minutes and she's with Tim Meadows. And basically Carson Veta meets with this guy named Tuttle. And Tuttle is another one of these New Republic bureaucrats. And we're getting this vibe of like, okay, the New Republic is sort of stretched thin. They don't want to be like the Empire. They're definitely trying to like tune down like their military and not have that kind of presence. They want to go back to the way the Republic was. And you're seeing like a lot of sort of cracks in the system or cracks in the foundation. That makes more sense. But I think it's kind of cool to see this character of Elia Kane come back, and then she's sort of influencing the plot. When you saw Tim Meadows' character of Tuttle, did you get taken out because he was played by Tim Meadows?
Yeah, I have a problem with that. The stunt casting in the show generally.
Yeah.
I prefer when they're character actors and they kind of fit with the scenery. I love Tim Meadows. Tim Meadows is hysterical. He is normally a great addition to anything he's in, but I see him as more of a comedic actor. Like I hear his voice, I'm expecting a punchline.
Right. Agreed. Did you think it was sort of a stretch that the R5 unit was what told Carson Veta where Mando was?
No, I actually really appreciate it, to be perfectly honest. The long crazy history, and we talked about this when he first appeared in the second episode, or was it the first? I don't remember. But just the fact that was the droid that broke down in A New Hope, and he was part of the rebellion, and all this other like hidden history. Again, it's world building, and I'm here for it. I appreciated that it just added an extra layer for that character to be there, I guess.
Yeah. I think it was kind of cool, and it sort of made sense now. It made more sense that like. I thought that when he was in that episode where they went to Mandalore, that he was there just so that Din could talk to someone besides Grogu. But now it's like giving him more things to do too. Yeah. So, I kept talking about Elia Kane, and obviously there's this sort of bigger overarching plot line that you've kind of referenced, which is like her, I guess, still working with Moff Gideon, right? Like that's what you think, right, at this point?
Oh, yeah. She's definitely evil still, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm still confused as to the motivations for her actions against Dr. Pershing. I guess it's covering up evidence, sort of, in a way, but I don't understand exactly why. Her placement in that scene is very telling that she is still in cahoots with the Empire, and I'm wondering if there's someone more involved here than just Moff Gideon, someone larger that that's been teased before, that we were expecting in another show, but maybe appearing earlier.
So you're saying Grand Admiral Thrawn?
I think so. Like when you put all the combined things together here, You have her presence in the New Republic hierarchy. You have the bombing of Bo-Katan's like palace. You have the escape of Moff Gideon, which I believe to be planted Beskar alloy, in his transport ship that was hijacked. I'm thinking that someone else has to be perpetrating this, someone larger, and it wouldn't do it justice if it wasn't a character that we know about. Like if it was just some other random new character, I don't think it would work. It needs to be something big that we're sort of aware of and that would be exciting. Otherwise, it would need to be a character we've seen already, and I don't think anybody else fits that bill.
Did you ever read the Timothy Zahn Star Wars trilogy that has Thrawn? Like that was
some
like
of them, not all of them.
Okay. See, I can never remember if like Thrawn was like pro Emperor, or I know he was definitely like pro Empire and he wanted the Empire to succeed, but I don't know if it was like, well, we don't need the Emperor, we have me, or like the Emperor didn't do a good job and you have me. I don't know what he's like in the new canon, but like, you know, we do have this idea that we're building towards a sequel trilogy and that Dr. Pershing's work somehow leads up to Snoke, right? And so it's like they erase Pershing's mind, or they like scramble his brain. And is that basically tying up loose ends, or is it sort of like, you know, we don't want that plan, we want to have our own plan? You know?
Yeah, it very well could be, and then maybe the reason that Snoke came out as he did, maybe he actually was intended to be a Palpatine clone or whatever, and maybe it's because Dr. Pershing's mind was all fried here, and his data was kind of corrupted in some manner because of that. Who knows? That's kind of far-fetching, I think, but you never know. I like connecting loose ends. I like the idea of kind of post-salvaging the kind of muddy continuity of the sequel trilogy. So
absolutely, yes. And I've said this multiple times on our show, but like that's one of my favorite parts of Star Wars, just in general, Star Wars fandom, is where they're able to like make the things that we don't like or the things that we're kind of disappointed in better. Like they make the prequels better, and they're going to make the sequels better now too. So you're under the impression that the Beskar armor that's in that shuttle, that's like planted to make the New Republic suspect the Mandalorians?
Yes. So I read an article about this. I want to say it was on Nerdist, and I didn't think about this, but he specifically says it's a Beskar alloy. So an alloy is a mixture of metals, and the Mandalorians, and especially the Children of Watch, are all like very much about purists and religious, and they treat the Beskar as like sacred object essentially. Generally speaking, with the exception of that spear that they had in season 2 of The Mandalorian, they only use it for armor. So the fact that there's something there that broke off, and it's an alloy, it makes me feel like it's a plant to make, and also the fact that Carson Teva was the one that defined it there, because he's the one that connected the Mandalorians to Navarro and to help them defend against the pirates. I think they're trying to pit the New Republic against Navarro and the Mandalorians.
Ooh, okay, that's good. That's actually a really good point. I like what they wrote in the Nerdist there. Like that's interesting that they just use the Beskar for armor and not other stuff. Like I think one of the things that becomes kind of problematic is when we're speculating like this, we're kind of thinking about like, oh, well, this has to happen in the future, so this has to happen. But like when you're telling a story, it should always be like, what does the character want? What's the goal of the character? And I'm kind of confused by Moff Gideon. Like, I don't get what his goal is. Like, is his goal to bring back the Empire? I mean, I guess that's probably any kind of Imperial's goal, right? But it's like, what is his method then? Like, because he had those droids that were super powerful that Luke took out in season 2. Yep. But it also seems like he was trying to do this cloning thing with Grogu, right?
Yeah, which is why I don't understand the elimination of Dr. Pershing.
Right,
like,
right.
That's what I don't get. That doesn't connect for me yet, and I'm curious to see where that goes. But I almost see Moff Gideon as like kind of an Imperial extremist. It's kind of like an offshoot, almost like kind of like a Red Skull with the Nazis.
Oh, come on! Weren't you going to say the Decepticon Justice Division?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Decepticon Justice Division. Yeah.
That's what I was waiting for right there. Yes, the DJD. Yes.
Yes, the Decepticon Justice. Well, I mean, they were more about hunting down defected Decepticons, like ones that kind of abandon the cause and kind of punishing them to kind of keep others in line and with the cause. Is like, hey, you screw up, that we're going to send these super powerful guys after you to like torture you to death.
Yeah, so they're not exactly the same. I get you. But okay, so Red Skull, Hydra, offshoot of the Nazis. I get you. Okay, so that's what you think about him. So is he trying to bring the Emperor back?
Well, I that's where I'm confused, because bringing the Emperor back means cloning. I mean, It's got to be, because that's how we're presented it in Rise of Skywalker. There's cloning bats all over the place. So there's that big disconnect there. But I mean, obviously he's going to be involved to hear something like that. But I don't think that it's going to work if it's just him alone again. He was the main villain in the first 2 seasons, and it's great that he's recurring, but they need to bring in something bigger to elevate the threat here. Now, especially that the Mandalorian has so many more allies.
Yeah, right. He's got all the Mandalorian. Yeah. Well, that's a good segue right there. So this episode, he's able to bring in the other Mandalorians to help liberate Navarro. They go to save Carl Weathers. And there's this great moment where they're in the cave and Din is pleading his case. He's saying, look, I know this guy kind of sent people after me and they killed some of you guys, and you guys had to live in a sewer on his planet, but let's go save him. And then the Vizsla guy comes in and he's like, oh, who are we to let this guy do this? Or he killed us, and who are we if we were going to go solve him or save him? And he's like, we're Mandalorians. And that moment, that made me laugh. Because because his tone like changes, but besides his tone changing, like the musical cue changes too. Right? It was almost like you remember like Funny or Die, like those little videos with like.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it was like something like that, where it's like it seemed like this, but then it's like, oh, we're Mandalorian. I just love that little change there.
Yeah, no, it was a nice little twist there. You think it's going one way, and it was like it got you pumped, got everybody pumped. Really, I really love that speech. It was great.
Yeah. So the Mandalorians go, and we finally get that scene where they're jumping out of the ship, and we see them with their rocket packs jumping down into the city. Did you like that sequence where they were fighting the pirates?
Yeah, because they were doing badass stuff like I want them to, and they weren't like goofy screw-ups shooting at the water.
Yes.
Like they're going in there and they're kicking ass. That's what, like, we're supposed to believe, that they're very highly trained, dangerous people, and they haven't proved that really here. But in this scene, they did.
They were doing all the badass Boba Fett stuff and none of the goofy Boba Fett stuff.
Yes.
They were doing like grappling hook stuff. There's a lot of grappling. There was a little bit of flame throwing. The one guy's got the fucking Gatling gun.
Yep.
Laser pistol. Yeah. I think the coolest part was the armorer with her hammer just taking people out.
Yeah, just throwing the hammer, knock people out and stuff. Yeah, stealth kills. Awesome stuff.
So that brings us to the end. And the armorer goes back to her old forge. Bo-Katan's there. And the armorer asks Bo-Katan to take off her helmet. Now, that was a very weird scene because it felt so contradictory to what we've seen so far. Do you feel that way too? Or
I did. I was very surprised. I thought there was going to be some kind of weird betrayal here, because I remember last week I was theorizing that it was, someone else under the mask there that was a previous character. I'm not so sure anymore. But really? Yeah, I was afraid for a minute. Yeah.
Okay. See, I thought that maybe her being like that would have made you think it was that character.
No. Well, yes. When she first asked to take the helmet off, yes, I thought so. But based on the outcome of that scenario, where she's basically saying that, you can walk both paths here. You're one of us, but we need someone to be the face to unify our people and take back our planet.
Yeah.
And based on that, I guess it's still possible that it's Rook cast. And they're just seeing eye to eye before, because they did want the same thing. They just went about it in different ways, or different ideas about how to get it done. So it still could be that character, but I like this turnout here. I'm sure it's great because Katie Sackhoff probably wants to show her face. I would like to see Katie Sackhoff's face.
Me too.
And I think that's one of the problems I have with the show and the way is that, I think the helmet rule's got to go. I think it's fine for all the background characters to have their helmets on all the time and everything like that. But, Din Djarin should be able to take his helmet off. We should be able to see Pedro Pascal. I think the Armor is a major character, can take her helmet off. Same thing with Paz Vizsla. I think, and maybe it doesn't have to be everybody, but I think it's smarter to be able for the audience to be able to see the faces of these actors sometimes. They can keep it on most of the time, but just sometimes.
Hell yeah.
And not be like a horrible sin,
I totally understand. Yeah. It's like iconic characters like Spider-Man. In the comics, we're pretty much used to seeing Spider-Man with his mask on most of the time. But, you want to see that movie star face. And so I think we're kind of used to that. We want to see these characters with their helmets off. Did you think that the Armorer was going to take her helmet off after she made Bo-Katan take her helmet off?
I did actually. And I thought they were just going to abolish the whole helmet thing there, but it seems to be only for her at the time being. But I think that's going to change eventually anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it may happen, but it's not yet.
Because you said last week that the woman who's the voice of the Armor is the actress that plays the character too, right?
Yes, Emily Swallow, yes.
I'm going to look up Emily Swallow after we're done with this, yeah. So I think that's pretty much it. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, we covered. Yeah, I don't think we missed anything, yeah.
Oh, wait. There's one little detail I want to point out. And also, I want to give credit to Star Wars Explained. I watched a really great review from them. Also, my notes, a lot of them were taken from a article written by, It wasn't written by It was written by John Saavedra from Den of Geek. So I want to give him credit, too. I never want to take credit for other people's work. But I picked up on this. I didn't need his article for this, but at the very end, when the Mandalorians are given their land, there's like Bullock Canyon, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." It's like a reference to Jeremy Bullock, the guy who played the original Boba Fett. So I thought that was cool.
That is a very cool little note. I heard the line as Bullet Canyon.
Oh yeah,
so I absolutely did not pick up on it at all.
Right. Which is weird because like in Star Wars, they don't usually use bullets,
Yeah.
So you're like, what the fuck? Yeah, but like you name it a bullet cannon. They do that kind of shit in comics all the time where they're like, oh, it's Finger Road or it's Brubaker Lane, always referencing. Yeah. So anyway, that's this episode. Brian and I are desperately trying to figure out what else to cover before the next MCU show comes out, which I think you said was Secret Invasion, right?
Yeah, I said it was mid-June, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
So we have a good 6-week gap of content. Maybe there's a movie coming out in that time frame, but Flash has to be coming out, right?
I think Flash is coming out, yeah. And
Flash and Guardians, right?
That sounds right.
Flash is. I don't remember anymore.
He's gonna look that shit up. While he's looking it up, though, I'll tell you what we were considering. We were considering kind of rewatching DC EU movies that lead up to the Flash. Because Danny and I over on my other channel, the Lassercast, are doing movies that are kind of connected to Evil Dead Rise, which is coming out April 21st. And so we just covered Drag Me to Hell. We're going to cover Darkman, like Sam Raimi kind of things. We did Evil Dead 2013. So I kind of would like to do that on this channel too, where we sort of watch things that are related to upcoming shows or movies. Or you got the dates. The
first thing we're going to get is Guardians, actually.
Okay.
It might not be bad to revisit Guardians. I mean, especially since Guardians 2 is one of our favorites that we agree on that most people don't.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That is a good idea. Yeah, because my goal is ultimately to kind of cover everything and just have it on this channel if anyone ever wants to check it out. Like all the MCU movies, all the DC movies. So I actually like that idea a lot too. We'll talk about that, off camera. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. And we might have more content, but we'll definitely be back here for more Mandalorian next week. So see y'all then. Uh-oh. Is that Arrow?